Hey, welcome back to Say It Real, where fluency starts with real conversations. And today, we're talking to the person who secretly feels like life already moved on without them.
Yeah, the person who looks at other people and thinks they figured it out earlier, they started younger, they had better timing, and now I'm just trying to catch a train that already left the station.
And if that thought has been living in your head lately, we want to sit with you for a bit and challenge it, because that feeling is common, but common does not mean true.
Exactly. Feeling behind is real, regret is real, comparison is real. But the conclusion people draw from those feelings is often completely wrong. And that conclusion is, well, so it must be too late for me.
Before we go deeper, a tiny favor that really helps this channel grow. If you enjoy learning English through conversations like this, please subscribe to Say It Real, give us a like, and hit the notification bell.
It genuinely helps us keep making these episodes, and it helps more learners find a space where English feels human, useful, and connected to real life instead of just rules on a page.
Okay, now let's get real. Have you ever had that dramatic little thought at like 10:43 p.m., lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking, wow, I really wasted a lot of time?
Weirdly specific, but yes. And those thoughts always arrive with confidence, too. They don't knock politely. They walk in like they own the place and start listing evidence from the last 10 years.
Exhibit A, the dream you delayed. Exhibit B, the class you never took. Exhibit C, the plan you said you'd start next Monday. Your brain becomes a very rude lawyer.
That is painfully accurate. And the scary part is, when that internal voice gets louder, people stop asking, what can I do now? And start repeating, what was the point of trying anyway?
That shift matters because one question opens the future and the other seals it shut. One creates movement, the other creates paralysis, and a lot of people live inside that paralysis for years.
Especially when they believe everybody else is ahead. You look online and someone is younger, richer, fitter, more fluent, more confident, more everything, at least from the outside.
But online life is edited life. People usually show the result, not the confusion before the result. They show the finished room, not the mess on the floor while they were building it.
Yes, and that creates a dangerous illusion that successful people moved in a straight line. They didn't. Most lives are messy, delayed, interrupted, restarted, paused, and rebuilt over and over.
I think that's one of the most comforting truths in the world, not because struggle is fun, it's not, but because it means your stops and starts do not disqualify you from progress.
Let's stay there, because some listeners may be thinking, okay, nice idea, but I really did lose time. I really did postpone things. I really did let fear make decisions for me.
Sure, and we're not here to pretend that doesn't hurt. Lost time can hurt. Missed chances can hurt. Watching your younger self make choices you wouldn't make now can really sting.
But pain is not proof that your future is gone. Pain is just proof that something mattered to you. That's a huge difference. It means there is still life in the dream.
That's such an important point. The fact that you still feel something when you think about that goal, English, work, travel, creativity, health, whatever it is, means the door is not dead.
Oof, yes. If the idea still wakes something up inside you, even a tiny bit, then your story is still active. Maybe dusty, maybe neglected, maybe messy, but active, still alive.
I like that word active because people often imagine change as one giant heroic moment, when actually most meaningful change begins as a quiet refusal to stay emotionally asleep.
Like the moment you say, I'm tired of disappointing myself. Not in a dramatic movie scene way, just in a very plain human kitchen table way. That moment can change everything.
Kitchen table honesty is powerful. No music, no spotlight, just you and the truth. Like, okay, I keep saying later, but later is not a plan. Later is where dreams go to hide.
Wow, that's painfully good. Later is where dreams go to hide. Somebody write that down. Actually, no, I'm writing that down. That one needs to stay.
Keep it, and let's talk about that word later, because it sounds harmless, it sounds reasonable, mature even, but later can become a very elegant form of avoidance.
Right, because later feels better than never, so we tell ourselves a comforting story. We say, I'm not quitting, I'm just waiting. But sometimes waiting is just quitting in slow motion.
And slow motion quitting is dangerous because it doesn't feel dramatic enough to scare you. It just quietly steals months, then years, then suddenly you're shocked by your own inaction.
That shock is brutal, the realization that time passed whether you acted or not, which means time is not asking permission, it keeps moving. The only question is whether you move with it.
And here is the hopeful part. You do not need to fix your whole life this week. You do not need a reinvention montage. You need one honest step that you repeat.
That idea sounds small, but it's actually profound because repetition is what changes identity. People think one big decision transforms them, but usually it's the repeated behavior after the decision.
Exactly. Anybody can feel motivated for one afternoon. The deeper question is, what are you willing to do on an ordinary Tuesday when your energy is low and nobody is clapping?
Ordinary Tuesday is where the truth lives, not the inspirational weekend, not January 1st, not your birthday reflection speech. Ordinary Tuesday at 6:20 p.m. after a long day.
After bad traffic, two annoying emails, and that mysterious exhaustion that appears for no reason, that version of you needs a plan more than your highly motivated version ever will.
So let's offer one, not a fantasy plan, a real one. If you feel late, behind, or discouraged, stop building your life around intensity and start building it around consistency.
Which means instead of saying, I'll study for 4 perfect hours on Saturday, maybe say, I'll give this 15 focused minutes every day, even when the day is ugly.
That's how momentum is built. Momentum is one of those beautiful words because it describes the force that appears after movement begins, not before, after. Motion creates more motion.
I love that because people wait to feel ready before moving, but readiness often shows up late. It's like confidence's lazy cousin. It arrives after you already started, not before.
Confidence really is late to everything. It shows up halfway through and acts like it helped from the beginning. Meanwhile, discipline has been doing all the heavy lifting in a hoodie.
Yes, discipline has no good marketing, but wow, it carries the whole operation. And discipline doesn't have to be harsh. Sometimes discipline is just a kind promise kept repeatedly.
That redefinition matters. A lot of people hear discipline and imagine punishment, strictness, pressure. But healthy discipline can sound like, I care about my future, so I'm showing up today.
Not because I'm amazing, not because I'm inspired, just because I want to stop abandoning myself. That sentence alone, I think a lot of listeners needed to hear that.
Me too, because self-abandonment is sneaky. It doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it just looks like repeatedly ignoring the thing you know would make you stronger.
Or talking to yourself in a way you would never talk to a friend. Imagine your friend says, I started late, and you go, yeah, probably pointless now. You would never say that.
Never. You'd say, okay, then start now. Start smaller, start slower, start embarrassed, start imperfectly, but start. We naturally offer others the grace we deny ourselves.
So maybe today is about borrowing that grace and turning it inward, treating yourself like a person worth helping, not a project you're always disappointed in.
That's beautiful. And it connects to something else. People often confuse being behind with being incapable. Those are not the same thing. Delay does not automatically mean inability.
Yes, you can be late and still become excellent. You can begin awkwardly and still become strong. You can start with doubt and still build a deeply meaningful result over time.
I think of a seed sometimes. A seed can stay hidden in the ground longer than expected, and from the outside, it looks like nothing is happening until suddenly it breaks open.
And that breaking open isn't failure. It's the beginning of growth. But from the seed's perspective, I imagine it probably feels terrifying, dark, cramped, uncertain, messy. Growth often does.
Which is why I want to say this clearly to anyone listening. Confusion at the beginning does not mean you're on the wrong path. It often means you're finally on a real one.
Real paths are rarely neat, especially with English or any long-term goal. There are days you feel sharp and days your brain feels like a sleepy potato wearing headphones.
A sleepy potato wearing headphones is the most accurate description of some study sessions I've ever had. Like, yes, I'm physically here. Spiritually, absolutely not.
And still, those sessions count. That's the miracle of consistency. Not every effort feels powerful in the moment, but repeated effort stacks in the background like invisible bricks.
Then, one day, you notice something changed. You understand more, you respond faster, a sentence comes out more naturally, you handle something that used to scare you, and you think, wait, when did that happen?
Exactly. Growth often whispers before it speaks loudly. First, it's subtle. You catch more words in a video. You understand a joke. You think in English for 10 seconds without translating.
In those moments of gold, they're not random, they are evidence. Tiny proof that your effort is doing something even when the big dramatic result hasn't arrived yet.
Let's pause on that word evidence. People waiting for perfect confidence often ignore evidence. They say, well, I'm not fluent yet, so none of this counts. That is such an unfair standard.
It really is. Imagine going to the gym for 3 weeks and saying, well, I'm not transformed, so clearly nothing happened. No, the process is happening before the mirror shows it.
Same with language. Same with healing. Same with rebuilding your life. The change inside often begins before the outside can fully reveal it, which is why patience is not passive, it's active trust.
Oh, active trust. I love that. Patience isn't sitting there doing nothing with a nice face. Patience is continuing the work long enough for reality to catch up with effort.
That's a really good distinction, because people think patience means waiting, but mature patience is more like staying steady while results are still loading.
Life really does have buffering moments. Please wait, your breakthrough is taking longer than expected. And you're like, wow, rude, but okay.
Honestly, yes. But while the loading circle spins, daily choices still matter. And this is where environment becomes huge. You may not control everything, but you do control some inputs.
Inputs like what you listen to, what you watch, what sits on your phone screen, what voices fill your day, what habits happen automatically when you feel bored, lonely, or tired.
Those boring little defaults shape more of life than people realize. Not because each one is massive, but because repeated defaults become identity over time.
Can we talk about scrolling for a second? Because, wow, that habit can eat a whole year while pretending it only borrowed 10 minutes.
Yes, scrolling is time theft dressed as relaxation. Sometimes it is harmless, but sometimes it leaves you weirdly empty, overstimulated, and somehow further away from yourself.
I've had those moments where I put my phone down and feel annoyed, not because anything bad happened, but because I know I just disappeared from my own life for 40 minutes.
That's such a sharp way to describe it. Disappeared from your own life. And if you feel behind already, disappearing every day only deepens the frustration.
Which is why replacing just one pattern can matter so much. Not your whole life, not every habit, just one trade, one intentional switch.
Like 10 minutes less mindless scrolling and 10 minutes more listening. One less random video, one short English episode instead. One less excuse, one tiny act of proof.
Proof is powerful because every time you do the new habit, you send yourself a message. I am not stuck. I'm a person who can interrupt the old pattern.
That message builds self-respect, and self-respect is underrated. People chase motivation, but often what they really need is evidence that they can trust themselves again.
Ooh, yes, trusting yourself again. That hits deep. Because when you've delayed something for a long time, the damage is not just lost progress, it's the broken relationship with yourself.
You stop believing your own promises. You say, I'll start Monday, and even you don't believe you anymore. That disconnect hurts in a very quiet, personal way.
But trust can be rebuilt exactly the way it was damaged, through repetition. Small, repeated proof. You keep one promise today, then another tomorrow, then another next week.
Nothing glamorous, just honest little wins. Drink water, read a page, listen for 10 minutes, write down 5 words, speak one sentence out loud. Tiny things with a giant long-term effect.
And speaking out loud matters, by the way. A lot of learners keep English trapped in their heads. They understand more than they say, but their mouth has no practice joining the team.
Your brain is like, we know this word, and your mouth is like, cool, that would have been useful to mention before this conversation started.
Exactly. So talk to yourself, seriously. In your room, in the kitchen, while making tea, while folding clothes, while walking somewhere, normal life can become speaking practice.
Describe what you see. Describe what you're doing. Retell your day. React to a memory. Ask yourself simple questions and answer them out loud. It may feel silly, but silly works.
And there's freedom in that kind of practice because nobody is judging you. You can pause, restart, laugh, search for words, and keep going without the pressure of a real-time conversation.
Then, when a real conversation comes, it doesn't feel completely foreign. Not easy, maybe, but familiar. And familiarity is one of the secret bridges to fluency.
Let's talk about that word, familiar. I love it. When something becomes familiar, it stops feeling like a threat. It becomes part of your world instead of something outside it.
Exactly. At first, English can feel like visiting somebody else's house. You're careful, unsure, touching nothing. But with enough exposure, it starts feeling more like a place you belong in.
That image is so comforting because belonging changes everything. Once the language starts feeling like a place you can live in, your fear begins to loosen its grip.
And fear is often the hidden issue, not age. People say, I'm too old. But often what they really mean is, I'm afraid to look foolish, fail publicly, or confirm my own doubts.
Ouch, that's true. Too old sometimes sounds more respectable than I'm scared. It feels cleaner. But naming the real obstacle gives you a chance to actually work with it.
Fear does not disappear because you waited longer. Usually it grows stronger, so waiting until you feel no fear is not a strategy, it's a trap.
Which means courage isn't the absence of fear. Courage is walking with the fear and refusing to let it make every decision. That's a much more usable definition.
And honestly, adult learners have strengths too. More patience sometimes, more context, more emotional depth, more reasons, more seriousness, more appreciation for the chance to learn.
That matters. Younger is not automatically better. Younger often just means earlier, but earlier and better are not the same word. Plenty of people begin early and never stay committed.
Meanwhile, somebody else begins later and stays steady enough to transform their whole life. Timing matters, sure, but commitment matters more than people admit.
There's also wisdom in beginning after disappointment, not because disappointment is fun, but because it can strip away fantasy and leave you with something stronger, intention.
You stop chasing the perfect image and start valuing the real process. You become less interested in looking impressive and more interested in becoming honest, capable, and consistent.
That version of growth is beautiful. Quieter maybe, less dramatic, but more durable, because it's built on truth, not adrenaline.
I want to ask something simple and maybe a little uncomfortable. What if the next chapter of your life does not need permission from the chapter before it?
Wow. Say that again?
What if the next chapter does not need permission from the previous one? What if your old delays, your old fear, your old inaction do not get to vote anymore?
That is powerful, because a lot of people are still asking their past for approval. They keep returning to old versions of themselves and saying, are we allowed to begin now?
You are. Even if you were inconsistent before, even if you stopped many times, even if you lost confidence, even if you feel embarrassed by how long you waited.
Beginning again is not fake, it's brave. Starting over is not proof that you failed forever. It's proof that something inside you still refuses to fully shut down.
And maybe that is the thing to protect. Not your pride, not your image, that small living part inside you that still wants a better future. Protect that.
Feed it too. Give it real things: time, attention, practice, better inputs, kinder self-talk, less comparison, more proof, more repetition, more ordinary courage.
Ordinary courage. I love that phrase because it sounds exactly like real life. Not cinematic courage, not speech on a mountain courage, just everyday honesty with follow through.
Everyday honesty with follow-through should be on a mug somewhere. I will buy that mug. Probably twice because I lose the first one.
Fair. And since we're being practical today, let's give people a simple reset they can use after this episode. Not tomorrow, not next month, today.
Okay, step one. Write one sentence somewhere you'll actually see it, not in a deep notebook graveyard. Somewhere visible. The sentence is, I can still build from here.
Step 2, choose one action so small it almost feels silly. 5 minutes of listening, 3 new words, 1 paragraph read out loud. Tiny on purpose.
Step 3. Repeat that action for a week before trying to upgrade it. Don't chase intensity too soon. Let the habit breathe. Let it become familiar.
And step 4, notice your evidence. Don't rush past it. If you showed up, that counts. If you remembered more, that counts too. If you were less scared, that counts too.
Evidence keeps people going. Because motivation is emotional, but evidence is concrete. Evidence says, no, really, something is changing here.
I think some listeners also need permission to grieve a little. Not forever, but honestly. Grieve the years you delayed, the confidence you wish you had sooner.
Yes, you don't have to pretend it never hurt, but grief should become a bridge, not a house. Feel it, learn from it, and then walk forward.
Beautifully said. A bridge, not a house. Do not build your permanent identity inside an old disappointment. Visit it, understand it, and keep moving.
Because movement changes mood. Action changes self-perception. Tiny progress changes the emotional weather inside a person. You don't think your way into a new life alone. You also act.
And once you act, even a little, hope becomes more believable. Not fantasy hope, grounded hope. The kind that stands on evidence instead of empty wishing.
Grounded hope is my favorite kind. Not everything will magically work out, but if I keep showing up, my future can become different from my past.
That sentence is real, and real is what we want here. Real conversations, real effort, real setbacks, real rebuilding. Because that is where fluency starts, and honestly, where change starts too.
All right, let's slow down for our word tour because this is one of my favorite parts, and it helps you turn today's conversation into practical English you can actually remember.
First word, momentum. Momentum is the force that keeps something moving after it has already started. Example, after 2 weeks of daily practice, I finally felt some momentum.
Second word, stuck. If you feel stuck, you feel unable to move or change. Example, I felt stuck for years, but one small routine helped me begin again.
Third phrase, build from here. It means accept your current position and start creating progress from this point, not from some imaginary perfect starting point.
Example, my past is messy, but I can still build from here. That's such a useful sentence, especially on difficult days when you need something honest but hopeful.
Fourth word, familiar. Familiar means known, comfortable, no longer strange. Example, English felt difficult at first, but daily listening made it more familiar.
And our last one is proof. Proof is evidence that something is real or true. Example, every small study session is proof that I am changing my habits.
Try using one of those words today. Even one sentence is enough. You do not need a perfect performance. You need contact with the language, repeated often.
And maybe also contact with a better story about yourself. Not the old story that says, I missed it. The newer story that says, I'm still in it.
If this conversation met you at the right time, please subscribe to Say It Real. Give this episode a like and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next one.
That support means a lot, and it helps us keep building a place where English practice feels encouraging, thoughtful, and connected to real life.
Wherever you are today, whether you feel hopeful, discouraged, tired, motivated, ashamed, or quietly ready, I hope you remember this. Delayed is not destroyed.
And being behind does not make you broken. It just means there's distance between here and there. Distance can be crossed, slowly, awkwardly, imperfectly, but crossed.
So take the small step, then take it again tomorrow. Let the ordinary days carry the bigger change. Let consistency do the quiet work.
Your past may explain your hesitation, but it does not own your future. You can still learn. You can still improve. You can still surprise yourself.
Thanks for spending this time with us on Say It Real. Take care of yourself, keep showing up, and we'll talk to you again very soon.
And until then, keep going, because fluency starts with real conversations. And sometimes the most important real conversation is the one that helps you begin again.